In the small town of Ravelin, where mornings smelled of dust and hope faded dizzily, lived a young man named Arin. He wasn't poor in dreams, but he was poor in belief in himself. Like so many of us, Arin spent most of his life waiting. He was waiting for approval, waiting for opportunities, waiting for someone, anyone, to finally notice his worth. Every morning, he would wake before the sunrise, sit by his window, and watch the world begin without him. He had ideas, ambitions, and plans, all written down in half-filled notebooks, stacked neatly under his bed, but not a single one of them had ever been acted upon. Arin held a deep, quiet belief that success only came when someone else opened the door for you. And so, he waited. He waited for his family to believe in him. He waited for his friends to encourage him. He waited for that one perfect, magical moment that would change everything. Years passed by just like this, quietly and without event. One evening, as the town prepared for its annual festival, Arin overheard two men speaking just outside his home. "Some people are born to move forward," one of them said. The other replied, "And some are born to wait." That simple sentence settled heavily in Arin's chest, like a stone. That night, for the very first time, he dared to ask himself a dangerous question. What if I'm not meant to wait? What if waiting isn't my destiny? The very next morning, Arin made a decision. It was a decision so small that not a single person in Ravelin noticed, but it was so powerful that it would change the entire course of his life. He chose not to wait. He didn't announce it to the world. He didn't seek validation or permission from anyone. He simply started. Arin had always dreamed of building something of his own, a small workshop where he could create tools and designs that truly helped people. But fear had always held him back, whispering in his ear that he wasn't skilled enough, not smart enough, and certainly not lucky enough. This time, instead of listening to that familiar voice of fear, he picked up his tools. The first days were brutal. His hands blistered from the unaccustomed work. His initial designs failed, one after another. Neighbors would walk by, see his crooked attempts, and laugh softly to themselves. "Why are you even trying?" Someone asked him one afternoon. "No one asked you to do this." That night, pure exhaustion crushed him. He was so close to giving up, so close to returning to the familiar comfort of waiting. But then, a realization hit him. Waiting had never actually protected him from failure. It had only protected him from growth. It had kept him safe, but it had also kept him small. So, with a newfound resolve, he continued. Weeks turned into months. Arin worked in silence while the rest of the town slept. He failed far more times than he succeeded. There were days when he earned nothing. Days when doubt screamed so loudly in his head that it drowned out any whisper of hope. One evening, after a particularly devastating failure, Arin sat alone in his workshop, surrounded by the broken pieces of his work. He felt utterly defeated. That's when an old woman named Alara, known throughout the town for her quiet wisdom, walked in. "Why do you look so tired?" she asked gently. Arin looked up, his shoulders slumped. "I'm tired of trying," he admitted. "No one believes in me." Alara smiled a soft, knowing smile. "Why should they?" she said. "When you are only just learning to believe in yourself." Those words struck him deeper than any insult ever had. They weren't meant to be cruel. They were a mirror, showing him the truth he hadn't been willing to see. From that moment on, something inside Arin shifted. He stopped seeking permission. He stopped looking for a cheering section. He focused not on being praised, but simply on being better than he was yesterday. He poured himself into his work, improving his skills, learning from every single mistake, and constantly refining his craft. And slowly, so slowly he almost didn't notice it at first, things began to change. One customer came, intrigued by his unique designs. Then another, and then another. People didn't throw him a parade or applaud him in the streets, but they noticed him. They noticed his dedication, his skill, his quiet persistence. And through this process, Arin learned a powerful truth. Progress is quiet before it is loud. Growth happens in the silence, in the struggle, long before anyone else sees the result. Years later, Arin stood in that very same town, but he was no longer standing in the shadows. His small, struggling workshop had grown into a respected business. A place where people came not just for well-made tools, but for a dose of inspiration. Young men and women would visit him, their eyes full of dreams, just as his once were. "How did you do it?" they'd ask. "How did you get your chance?" Arin always answered the same way. "I stopped waiting for it." He realized that the biggest lie he had ever believed was that someone else was responsible for his future. No great mentor had arrived on a white horse. No miracle had occurred out of the blue. No perfect moment had ever appeared. What changed everything was the day he chose himself. The day he decided he was worthy of his own effort. Standing by his old window one morning, watching the town of Ravlin wake up just as he had done for so many years, Arin smiled. The world was still imperfect. Life was still difficult. Challenges still came his way, but he was no longer a spectator in his own life. He was an active participant. He understood now. Waiting does not make you ready. Fear does not mean you should stop. And confidence. Confidence is not something you are given. It's something you build, piece by piece, failure by failure. The story of Arin spread quietly through the town and beyond, just like his growth had. Not because it was a dramatic, sensational tale, but because it was real. And somewhere, maybe right now, someone is sitting by a window, waiting for their life to begin. And maybe, just maybe, they'll hear this story and decide to stand up. Because the moment you stop waiting for others is the moment your life finally, truly starts. Thanks for watching. If this story resonated with you, consider subscribing for more content that inspires you to take action. We'll see you in the next one.